Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Eddie. According to the government, Boris Johnson has no plans to visit flooded parts of the country in the aftermath of Storm Dennis and Storm Ciara. Apparently, he's tucked up in the country mansion at Chevening in Kent because, of course, Parliament's in recess. Currently, we have 200 flood warnings in place, including 6 danger to life alerts. So with Boris failing to visit any of the flooded areas, do you think this is a failure of leadership? If you do, call me on 0345 6060 973. You can text your view to 84850. You can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. Or, of course, join us, watch us on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom, officials say hundreds of homes remain under threat from flooding in the aftermath of Storm Dennis. In the Midlands, the River Severn is continuing to rise, prompting warnings that temporary defences could give way. 6 severe or danger to life alerts are still in place. The Environment Minister, Rebecca Powell, has defended the government's response.
What has really hit us in the Severn area is that huge deluge when river levels rose by 2 metres in a couple of hours. That was the thing that took everyone by surprise. And the Environment Agency have done tremendous work with over 1,000 people working night and day to keep people safe, putting up temporary barriers.
Residents in the worst-hit parts of the Midlands and South Wales are counting the cost of flood damage. These people in Worcestershire have told LBC their businesses have been devastated.
You haven't got a choice really but to just carry on, or try to anyway. Whether we'll get insured ever again, I don't know.
Things like this really knock us to bits, and it means more to us than it would to sort of a superstore or something like that.
As independent business owners, we don't have an income unless we can earn it, and if our doors are shut, we can't earn money.
2 British passengers aboard a cruise ship quarantined in Japan say they have tested positive for the coronavirus. Sally and David Abel had been hoping to return to the UK on a repatriation flight, understood to be taking off in the coming days. Downing Street says Boris Johnson has spoken to President Xi of China to discuss the outbreak. Liu Xiaoming is Beijing's ambassador in the UK.
Prime Minister Johnson expressed high appreciation of the efforts made by China, and they also talk about how China and the UK can collaborate to fight shoulder to shoulder against this virus.
The government is facing calls to look at its vetting process following the resignation of a Downing Street advisor. Andrew Sobieski stood down after widespread criticism for past comments about race, eugenics and contraception. Mr. Sobieski has accused the media of selective quoting. The jury in the Harvey Weinstein trial has retired to consider its verdicts. The former Hollywood producer has pleaded not guilty in New York to 5 charges of rape and sexual assault. HSBC has announced plans to cut its workforce around the world by 35,000 jobs. It's unclear how many roles are under threat in the UK. Profits at the bank fell by around a third last year, missing analysts' expectations. The LBC Markets report. The FTSE 100 has closed at 73.82, down 51. The pound buys $1.30 and €1.21. And LBC weather. Showers confined to northern Scotland tonight. A cold evening with rain developing in the west by dawn. A low of 2 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Thomas Watts.
This is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation, the Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, the general election was just 2 months ago. We've had Christmas holidays in between. And you may say, where is Parliament this week? Well, it's half term. They're all off. No one's in Westminster. That and the schools being off, the traffic's much better than it normally is going around London. The question is, hashtag where's Boris? Because he is the Prime Minister, and we have at the moment 200 flood warnings in this country. 6 of them are red danger to life alerts, and several people have been killed in the last couple of days as a result of flooding. And we have a weather forecast that suggests that this pattern of southwesterly gales and heavy rain will continue right through the end of this week and into the beginning of next week. Hashtag Where's Boris? It's trending on Twitter as I speak. And that's the question I'm going to put to Ben Kentish, LBC's Westminster correspondent. Ben, where's Boris?
Nigel, I'll tell you where he is. He is at a very nice country house in Kent called Chevening, which, as you'll know, is the official residence of the Foreign Secretary, but this week being used by the Prime Minister because Chequers, where he'd normally go in parliamentary recess, is being renovated, we're told. So he is working from there. But as you said there, real criticism from opposition MPs, particularly, and people representing those areas affected in Yorkshire, South Wales, the West Midlands, across the country.
Yeah,
of course,
Worcestershire.
We're down to 200 warnings, but at one point we had almost 600 in place, record levels, and of local officials talking of unprecedented levels of flooding in these areas, and people saying, where is the Prime Minister? They want him to be out and about, and they also want him to be calling a COBRA meeting, because that's obviously the government's emergency committee, often called before to deal with floods to make sure that the areas are getting the funding they need, and hasn't been this time. And that was a point made on LBC earlier by Halifax MP, Labour MP Holly Lynch, who is representing one of the areas affected.
Yep.
I'm not in charge of his diary, and I can see perhaps that might be something suitable. But as I say, you know, with the Prime Minister coming onto the ground means a lot of security, a lot of impact. And the reality is, I think when people are worried about their homes and livelihoods, they want people focused on, you know, clearing out and supporting them and making sure they're not in a dangerous situation. And I'm not sure that photo calls are what people are really keen about. I'm sure when the time is right, he will be there to support those communities.
That was actually Mims Davis, the business minister, explaining why the Prime Minister hasn't been out and about. The government really wants to...
Well, I thought that was pathetic. I mean, look, I think back to when I was leader of UKIP and we had major party status and there was big flooding on the Somerset levels, and twice I went to visit. We then had shortly afterwards the Thames breaking its banks in Surrey, and I visited, and there may have been a political angle in that dredging of the rivers had become more difficult due to EU directives. But kind of, if you lead a political party, you kind of show empathy, sympathy with people who are suffering. But there's an echo here for me, because we had all of this back in November, when there was very large-scale flooding in the east of England. Lincolnshire, particularly affected, parts of Yorkshire, particularly affected. Some people, you know, flooded yet again for the third time in 10 years. And Boris did turn up and got some stick. Am I remembering this rightly?
He did. He took a couple of days to go, and you're absolutely right. He got heckled. There were shouts of, "Where have you been, Boris? It's too late, Boris."
Yeah.
And it was a difficult time for Downing Street. Now, I suspect that is now part of their thinking, because it has been a few days. Again, if he goes now, we know residents in those areas have already been telling journalists, "Where's the Prime Minister?" That is likely to happen again. The question people are asking, we'll listen in a minute, is why didn't he go on Sunday or Monday morning when this flooding first occurred? Now, let's listen to what Holly Lynch had to say about that.
I certainly don't want him to drop everything and come here, but I don't think it's asking a great deal to say, you are the Prime Minister, you wanted this job. What I expect is for you to do it, call a COBRA meeting, get your cabinet to be as involved as they need to be and unlock that support that we need. You know, that is his job. I'm afraid I think it's a dereliction of duty for him not to have done that at this point.
Nigel, the government says that George Eustice, the new Environment Secretary, difficult first week for him. He's been out and about on behalf of the Prime Minister, and Tory sources are saying that this is part of their new approach to letting cabinet ministers get on with the job and not having Boris Johnson have to do everything. But as you heard just there, MPs, residents and others not satisfied with that explanation.
I wonder, LBC listeners, as you're tuned into this show, if I was to put in front of you a photograph of the new Environment Secretary, George Eustice, how many of you honestly could identify him? Now, I'd recognise him because he was a long time ago a UKIP candidate when he was quite mind you, I was quite young too. But I'd recognise him, but I wonder whether even 10% of the country would even know who he is. So the pressure will build on Boris to go, but kind of a bit like last time, there's a feeling he's left it too late.
Well, we're told by Number 10 there's no plans for him to do so. I think, again, after the row yesterday with one of his advisors being sacked, after pressure from the public and the media, I think they'll be reluctant to again be seen to be responding to events.
Yeah, this was the Andrew Sabisky case.
This
was in response to Dominic Cummings saying we want to employ weirdos, take weirdos on, and I knew a lot about that from my time in politics, let me tell you. And this guy said a whole load of stuff, or had said a whole load of stuff that was pretty unsavoury, and he's finally gone. I did put a tweet out this morning referring to David Cameron's comments about me and UKIP in 2005, and I said, who are the fruitcakes, loonies and closet racists now? Has that row and the sacking, effectively, or resignation of Sabisky, does that begin to put Dominic Cummings in a more difficult place?
It's certainly a big blow for him. I mean, his big plan for government, as we know, Nigel, is to get radical thinkers and people who are unconventional in their approach into government. And his very first hire has resulted in outrage and scandal and ultimately the guy having to resign. But just to come back from the flooding quick, I think it does mean that there is a sense in Number 10 that they don't want to just be buffeted by day-to-day criticism. They want to get on with what they see as governing. And so I don't think you'll be seeing Boris Johnson immediately running out of Chevening and heading around the country to those flooded areas.
Ben Kendrick, thank you. Do you think, folks, this is a failure of leadership? Because I do. Call me on 0345 6060 973. The job of a leader, particularly in tough times, is to go out and show empathy and sympathy with your people, to maybe discover, to try and find out what can be done. Not to promise the earth, but to go and show some leadership. And he hasn't done it, and I think it's pretty poor. We're going to Tenbury Wells, a place very seriously affected by these floods, to speak to John, a new caller. John, good evening.
Hello, Nigel. Well, I agree with you on most things, but I don't agree with you on this.
OK.
Tenbury Wells is a small community, and having suffered floods in the past, serious floods 13 years ago, we have a really wonderful community support. Everybody helps each other with dealing with the problems arising from the floods. And if Boris was to come here, much though I'd like to see him, in my personal opinion, of course, he would just disrupt what's going on. He would need security and all the paraphernalia that goes with the visiting of an important person like that. And I think as a community, we'd rather just get on with the job. From another point of view is, of course, people think that they can prevent the floods by putting up barriers locally, and I don't think that's the solution to the problem on its own. I think we need to look at the much wider picture of getting a lot of rain in the Welsh Mountains, in our case, finding its way down to us as a surge. And I think we ought to be looking not at the symptoms so much as the causes and trying to deal with it a little bit closer to where the water's coming from.
So, anything happens, floods, earthquakes, fire, disaster, terrorism, the Prime Minister just sticks firmly in Number 10, or, in this case, in Chevening, John. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think in this particular case, I'm obviously speaking about a special case, a small town like this, and to compare it with earthquakes and things of that kind, those sort of events, having been in a minor earthquake, I'm aware of that. I don't think
how badly
it's in
affected,
the same
John?
order.
John, how badly affected is your house?
It hasn't affected my house. It was 100 yards from my house.
You see,
I'm involved with a lot of people in.
You see, John,
I've
visited.
I've been into the town.
I visited people in Barnsley in November who, for the second time in the space of a few years, had the whole of the downstairs of their houses absolutely devastated. We're going to have to wait months for things to dry out, to sort out insurance claims on their already inflated premiums, and they were really, really in a pretty desperate state. And I think the job of a Prime Minister, John, is to show some sympathy with those people.
Well, I would like him to show sympathy, certainly, but I don't think that sympathy translates into coming here with, as I said, all the paraphernalia in a small town. Now, Barnsley is a much bigger place.
Yes.
Maybe it would work better there. It's my opinion, but I don't think he would help the local people.
All right. So what should Boris do, John? Should he just stick in Chevening for the week?
Well, if that's his priority in running our government and dealing with EU and all the rest of it, which to me is very important, he's got a minister who's responsible for these things. They ought to be looking at the bigger
If I
picture.
showed you a picture of George Eustace, John,
Yeah.
would you recognise him?
No, of course I wouldn't.
No, there you go. All right, well, that's the point I'm making. It's about leadership. John, thank you for your call. I understand Tenbury Wells is a relatively small place. I understand you've had floods before. I understand you're prepared, but I do think the job of a Prime Minister in a crisis is to be seen. That's my view. Let me know what you think. It's 6:15. Time for the news headlines with Thomas Watts.
Homes remain under threat from flooding as river levels threaten to breach flood barriers in the Midlands. The Foreign Office says it's providing support to a British couple who've tested positive for coronavirus on a cruise ship. The jury in the trial of Harvey Weinstein has retired to consider its verdict. A chilly night with showers in northern Scotland and a low of 2 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. They're accused on the M1 northbound from Junction 6 for Bricket Wood to Junction 9 for Redbourne after an accident earlier on. All the lanes are back open again. It's slow on the M25 anti-clockwise. That's because of emergency repairs after Junction 23 for the A1M. One lane stays closed. Anti-clockwise in the M25, there are long delays from Junction 4 for Orpington to the Dartford Tunnel after an accident earlier on. They're accused in the M25 clockwise from Junction 29 for Romford to Junction 30 for Lakeside after an accident earlier. Also clockwise in the M25, there are long delays going from Junction 10 for the A3 to Junction 15 for the M4 after several problems throughout the afternoon. They're accused in the A13 Newham Way into town because of an accident at the Beckton roundabout, and the A21 stays shut between Tunbridge and Sevenoaks. That's for repairs, so there are long delays.
This is LBC.
Keep coming. Yeah, bit more.
At Hey Car, you'll find the best used cars all in one place. Every car is quality checked and comes with a warranty. So finding your perfect used car is easy. You just need somewhere to park it.
Back. Whoa. Yeah, great. Stop.
To find your perfect used car, search Hey Car.
LBC.
London's air pollution affects every borough and everyone's health, especially children. The main cause? Road transport. The Mayor and TfL are working to clean up London's buses and taxis, but there are things we can all do as well. By swapping just one car trip every week for walking, cycling or public transport, we can help make London's air cleaner together for everyone. See how the Mayor and TfL are working towards cleaner air. Sign up to do your bit and swap that trip at lbc.co.uk.
The rules say you can't have a big 4x4 SUV that combines power with fuel efficiency. But the new Vauxhall Grandland X Hybrid 4 breaks all the rules. The smart petrol-electric hybrid engine combines 300 horsepower with up to 204 mpg. That's right, 204. Search Grandland X Hybrid and test drive now at your local Vauxhall retailer. Vauxhall. New rules Britannia. Official WLTP Grandland X Hybrid 4 test figures. For comparison purposes only, obtained using combined battery power and fuel. Real-world figures may vary.
The moment you realise that freezing water isn't warming up and you've cancelled your gym membership so you can't use their shower. The moment you realise you've British Gas Home Care boiler cover. From just 46p a day, you've someone to turn to 24/7 and you get an annual boiler service. And if you buy selected home care products online by the 24th of February, you'll get a gift card worth up to £75 to treat yourself. So the moment you have a problem, make it our problem. British Gas, here to solve. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply. Prices vary by postcode.
Teaching shapes lives. If you're considering a career in teaching, you could be eligible for a £26,000 tax-free training bursary. Find out about the financial support to help you start your career in the classroom. Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Search Get Into Teaching. Bursary subject to eligibility. Selected subjects only.
Could the owner of a Santorini black all-electric Jaguar I-Pace, winner of World Car of the Year, World Green Car of the Year, World Car Design of the Year and 68 other industry awards, parked in South Terminal Long Stay, Area G, please give yourself a big pat on the back. That's a stunning car.
The all-electric Jaguar I-Pace. Electric never looked so good. Search Jaguar I-Pace.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
There are nearly 200 flood alerts in the country and 6 severe flooding, imminent red warnings that represent a danger to life. And I'm asking whether the Prime Minister should be holed up in Chevening for the rest of the week or maybe out about around the country. Isn't that what leaders do? Before I get back to your calls on that, today is a very, very interesting and I think happy anniversary. It was a year ago today that Chucker and his chums, 7 of them, dramatically left the Labour Party and joined Anna Soubry's new dynamic political party, Change UK, and they were all pictured that night out having dinner in Nando's, and you would have thought, to listen to the BBC, it was almost the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. A new dawn in British politics where Remain would out, and we'd all think that the Brexit result was a total disaster and change our minds because of Chucker, Anna, and these absolutely wonderful people. And I'm so pleased to report a year on that their European election campaign was a total catastrophe. They got absolutely nowhere, lost their deposit in every single region in which they stood, and now they are defunct and gone, and we've left the European Union. It gives me great pleasure, because I do think they epitomised just how out of touch Westminster had become with the country, and indeed on an individual basis with many of their own constituents. Right, back to Boris, back to what is going on, and it's the Midlands the worst affected. The Midlands, South Wales, bits of Yorkshire, but it's the Midlands particularly. It's sort of Worcestershire, Herefordshire, places like that that seem to be affected, and in some cases these are the worst floods in recorded history. Yes, it's a failure of leadership not to get a handle on these floods, says BB to me. The PM is damned if he doesn't, damned if he doesn't. The local MPs should be sorting all this out. Well, maybe they are, and I'm sure many of them are out there and concerned and talking to their constituents. Now, look, it may well be you all think this doesn't matter for Prime Ministers, better to be holed up during the recess in Chevening. I just think a leader needs to be out there when there's a crisis and when there's a problem. That is my view. Let's go to Rob, who's a new caller from Wallasey in Liverpool. Good evening, Rob.
Hello there. First of all, Nigel, congratulations on Brexit and the result.
Thank you. Welcome. And by the way, Rob, and I'll talk in a minute about this, an amazing speech last night from our chief negotiator, David Frost, in Brussels, and the government looking serious. I'm that side of it, I'm thrilled with. You know, the promises that Boris has made, I'm thrilled with all of that. I'm just mystified why, as a leader, you don't go and visit your people when they're in distress.
Yeah. Okay, quick correction. Wallasey's not in Liverpool, it's in the Wirral on the other side of the water. But that aside, I mean, I was in the fire brigade for 30 years, and we used to have an expression. Bear in mind that all the senior officers had the white helmets. And we used to have an expression that every major job, it was direct, the length of it was directly proportional to the number of white helmets that turned up. The more the officers came and took over and changed the next person down's policies, the longer the job went on. And that's the same thing here. Generals don't lead from the front, they lead from the back, and they organise, they delegate. It's the lower down.
Oh, I don't know about that, Rob. I don't know about that.
General in the trenches.
48 British generals are killed in the First World War. All right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a myth. I mean, I know some were back at the chateau drinking port and suffering with gout, but an awful lot were up at the front and getting killed. Rob, I tell you what. Imagine a hurricane in Florida, right?
Yeah.
A damaging hurricane in Florida, and, you know, the governor of the state, of course, would be front and centre of preparations and warnings and everything else. But do you think after that hurricane that Obama or Trump wouldn't go and visit?
I'm sure they would, but
yes.
After the hurricane, that this flood is still an ongoing situation, and it needs organisation. Now, I'll grant that he should have pulled together COBRA and got a senior policy committee, if you like, going on it. But I don't believe, because if he turns up at these flood areas, he's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. The man can't win when he goes up front there.
Well, let me give you.
He's better off staying back and organising.
Let me give you a sort of historical analogy, and this is not perfect. And what happened in the mid-1960s in South Wales and Aberfan was truly horrendous. All right, truly horrendous. And it is said that the Queen, sitting in Buckingham Palace, was urged to go to Aberfan.
Yes, I remember the scandal about that. Yeah.
And she took the view that she'd get in the way, cause a fuss, and there wasn't much she actually could do. And she delayed the visit, and I think Prince Philip went and attended some of the funerals of the children that were killed. And it is said, Rob, and it's now the biggest regret of her reign, that she didn't go and show support with people going through a terrible time as the Queen. Now, I'm not for one moment suggesting that 5 people killed is even comparable to Aberfan, but I am suggesting that there are people out there deeply distressed, having an absolutely horrible time, who are terrified that they're living in areas where there are still serious alerts. And surely, Rob, someone needs to go and say, we're with you.
I accept that. But Aberfan, as in the hurricane situation that you named earlier, they were fait accompli by the time the visit went on. This is an ongoing situation where he'll just get in the way. And as has been said before, the entourage will turn up, treading all around the place, getting in front. People just call it a photo shoot. He'll get damned for it if he does turn up. Just
all right, okay. No, Rob, I hear what you say, and he may be a distraction if he turns up. I'm not sure being holed up at Chevening is the right thing. But hey, we'll agree very politely to disagree. I'll go to Tom, who's a new caller from Ledbury, one of the affected areas in Hereford. Tom, good evening.
Evening, Nigel. From my side here, I think it's a lot about getting the visibility of Herefordshire, Worcestershire back in the minds of people. That place, yes, there are floods, but we will move forward with it. Getting Boris actually here keeps bringing attention to areas that are severely impacted. Yeah, he is damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. But this is someone who's meant to be this charismatic, grand, in-your-face kind of leader. And this just smacks of somebody who's not prepared to come out and deal with people who are on the ground having a tough time, people who are going to challenge him backwards. It just smacks for me of, imagine if this was in Kent, or this was in London, or somewhere which was a bit more glamorous, or recently has newly elected MPs for the Conservative Party. These are safe seats in Herefordshire. These are on the
are you suggesting that no one cares because Worcestershire and Herefordshire are safe Tory areas?
Not truly. There's a bit of an exaggeration from that side, right. But I'm more saying if it was somewhere where there was a more glamorous area, or a more public, a more visibly a large visible area, then I can imagine he'd be quicker to come out here. If this was, for example, floods in Manchester or floods in...
Tom, how severely affected is your area?
Mixed. So there's a cracking little pub down in the Simmons Yacht, which is not far from us, is highly impacted. We've got family down in Monmouth. Luckily, they're all okay, but my wife's old school is severely impacted by that. Parts of it are underwater. Parts of Ledbury are flooded, but it's not too bad. Ironically, one of the areas where they plan to build about 700 new houses is all underwater. So I hope the local council will notice that
building on the floodplains. Yeah.
Lovely flat areas.
Yeah.
But
so Tom, you'd like to see Boris. You'd like to see Boris whiz through Ledbury, yeah?
Absolutely, come in. Maybe not Ledbury because they're not massively impacted, but definitely get into Herefordshire, get into Monmouthshire. Come here and actually be visible. Bring the press with you. Bring the visibility that actually
show that you care. I agree, Tom. I'm with you totally on this. Absolutely, but not everybody is. It's 6 o'clock and Farage is on bashing Boris. What's the point of Boris visiting the flood areas? It's just a circus. Best to stay away and have professionals there helping. Well, some of you take that view. I don't. I think it's the job of a leader when things go wrong to at least be shown. And you know. Adam in Crawley says, look, if he turns up, he gets abuse from the residents. If he doesn't, he gets abuse from the media. He can't win. Adam, the job of leaders at times is to take abuse. It goes with the territory. And the reason he got abuse in Yorkshire back in November is because he left it day after day after day before he turned up. And naturally people said, oh, crikey, didn't even know that you cared. Graham says to me, unless Bojo can turn back the floods, what blooming good is he? Yeah, there was a king, Canute, tried to do that with the sea, wasn't there? Graham, it's going and listening and being seen to care and think about flood defences and think about the dredging of rivers, something that many would argue has been severely impacted by successive European Union directives. Others will say it's not true. All these debates are the same. But wouldn't it be good for a Prime Minister going to visit the River Severn to work out, have we got the management of the Severn right? Is there a reason this flood in some areas is the worst it's ever been? Being seen to be on the ground is what leaders do in a crisis, not to be holed up in Chevening for a week. In a minute, I'm going to be incredibly praiseworthy of the Prime Minister in terms of Brexit, the negotiations, and a speech in Brussels by David Frost last night. But on this issue, I think It's a failure of leadership. This is the Nigel Farage Show. This is LBC. It's 6:30 and time for the news with Thomas Watts.
Hundreds of flood warnings and alerts are still in place across the UK as river levels peak in parts of Shropshire. More rain is expected later this week in the aftermath of Storm Dennis. A jury in New York has been sent out to consider its verdict at the trial of Harvey Weinstein. The former film producer denies 5 charges, including rape and sexual assault. Boris Johnson has been urged to review Downing Street vetting processes following the resignation of a new advisor. Andrew Sobieski, who had made controversial remarks on eugenics and race, has accused the media of selective quoting. LBC weather. Showers will become confined to northern Scotland tonight. A cold evening with rain developing in the west by dawn, a low of 2 degrees.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. LBC.
Let's talk about green emissions. It's all very laudable, but doesn't it seem rather at odds with the idea that it could be that we're going to have a new coal mine in Bradley in Durham? Here with more details is Conservative MP and Business Minister Kwasi Kwarteng. So you are in support of this open cast coal site?
I'm not in support of having more coal. What I'm saying is that the strategy is that we're going to take coal off the generating grid.
Why would we have another mine?
This mine, I don't think, is something which is going to be necessarily a permanent feature, but the fact I can tell you...
What, a temporary mine?
We are taking coal off the system.
We're taking coal off the system and opening another open cast coal site. Do you not accept, Minister, their mixed messages?
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Xero. Get your business digital ready with Xero accounting software.
LBC.
Welcome aboard Europe's 169th safest airline.
You were like my 169th biggest crush in school.
Your total body age is 169.
The number 169 never screamed glamour until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Plate for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Plate over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of March 2020. £3,311.25p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
Zoom didn't invent video conferencing. They just made it better. Ready for more? Zoom Phone works seamlessly within the Zoom app as your business phone system to make and receive phone calls, capture call recordings, and easily escalate to video if the need arises. And it works wherever you are, in the office or on your mobile device. Zoom built this for you. Exceptional audio quality, reliable service, one easy app. Sign up for Zoom Phone online at zoom.com and meet happy with Zoom.
Obsession. An idea or thought that continually preoccupies a person's mind. At Darwood & Tanner, one of the UK's most innovative dental implant practices, we are obsessed about dental health and dental implants transforming our patients' lives. Here's Andrew Darwood.
One of the great joys of our practice is that we're seeing patients we treated 25 years ago with dental implants, and they're still doing well, still smiling.
Visit darwoodandtanner.co.uk. Obsessive dental care.
When did the word free stop meaning free? Buy one, get one free? Wait 6 months and then it's free. How about something a little more clear? When you buy car or home insurance, you can choose a free gift with Confused.com rewards, like Green Flag Breakdown cover, a £20 Domino's or Halfords voucher, or a Now TV pass. Don't be confused. Be Confused.com. Available on single annual policies. Now TV 18+. Full T's and C's online.
Teaching shapes lives. If you're thinking of becoming a teacher, our expert teaching advisors can give you the level of support you need to get one step closer to the classroom. Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Search Get Into Teaching. Advisor support subject to eligibility.
Oh, hello there. My name's Worcester. Now, as a cat, I'm a bit of an expert when it comes to warmth. So imagine how cat-a-hoop I was to find out my humans had installed a new Worcester Bosch Green Star 8000 star boiler. Not only does it look perfect, it comes with a 12-year guarantee and has even been awarded a Which Best Buy. It really is the cat's whiskers. To be as warm as Worcester, search worcesterbosch.co.uk.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
Should Boris visit the flood areas? Hashtag where's Boris? That's the question many in the country are asking. Mark says, send the royals instead. Boris is useless. Well, some people think the royals are useless, but there are people out there having a really tough time. And there is a forecast of continued gales and rain over the course of the next, well, at least 5 days. I think he should be there. Right, OK, let's be nice about Boris's government. Last night, there was a remarkable speech in Brussels by David Frost, the UK's chief Brexit negotiator. Now, I have to be cautious here, because I sat in this chair back in early 2017 when Theresa May gave her Lancaster House speech, and I listened to words and phrases that I'd been uttering for 20 years and been condemned for and called all sorts of ghastly things. And she was saying them, and I thought, wow, this is it. It's going to happen. Yippee! And of course, it all went horribly, desperately, very badly wrong. Luckily, I did smell a rat in time and did something about it. So I have to say this with some degree of caution, having been very badly burnt before. But there is a difference here. This speech wasn't given designed for a UK domestic political audience. This speech was given by David Frost in Brussels. And he made it absolutely clear that we seek an EU-Canada-style trade deal, one that abolishes most tariffs, makes inroads into services, and yes, sure, there'll be some degree of trade friction, but made it clear we will not have regulatory alignment, because that was the whole point of the Brexit vote. The whole point was we should be able to make our own rules. He said he wants us to be treated as sovereign equals. He said we'd become, and this is the bit I couldn't believe, I was so pleased, an independent country. I mean, wow, this is proper stuff. And he said that actually, that if we finished up aligned, that consent for the democratic process in the United Kingdom would snap finally and dramatically. And that, I think, is an acknowledgement. Boris Johnson's government knows. They've ridden in on a wave of popularity, saying they will get Brexit done and making promises not to be aligned. They know if they fail on this, their support will literally melt away, rapidly disappear, just as Theresa May's did when we woke up on the 30th of March last year and realised we were still part of the European Union. But I think the speech that Frost gave in Brussels last night is the most significant speech given by the government, certainly since the Brexit vote back in the 23rd of June 2016. It's a big, big moment. Notice has been given. And, you know, Barnier and all the others who are insistent that they cannot allow a United Kingdom on their doorsteps to be more competitive than they are. I felt this in my last day in Brussels in the European Parliament when I waved them all goodbye with a flag. And I felt them for the first time. They're more scared of us than we are of them. We've potentially now got the upper hand in these negotiations. And David Frost, you keep playing your cards this way and they're going to come running to you. Now, back to Boris. Karen says, what do they want Boris to do? Bail it out with a bucket? Karen, do you know what? Actually, if he was seen to be there helping a few households, even if it was seen by some to be for show, at least he would be there and would understand the problem. Robert is surprised Corbyn's not been there with his bandwagon. Corbyn doesn't know where Worcestershire is or Herefordshire is. I mean, that's the country. He survives in towns. Simon is a new caller from Milton Keynes. Good evening, Simon.
Hello.
Good evening. So, should Boris be there giving leadership?
He should have been there the day afterwards. People of the country have lent him his vote in a lot of areas.
Yes.
And he should not forget it.
Right. And so why do you think he's not doing it?
Probably because some of his advisors have told him to just stay put at the moment.
Because he might get a bit of stick, do you think?
Oh, he's definitely going to get some of that.
But that's going to happen anyway, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. I mean, he's supposed to be the Parliament of the people. So go and help the people. Government
of the people, for the people, by the people.
Yep.
And he's not quite matching up to that then, Simon.
Well, he needs to, because he's going to lose voters at the next election. He's got to keep them on his side, surely.
Simon, I agree with you. I think you should be there. Absolutely. Now, Margaret in Bolton takes issue. Once again, you're chipping away at Boris Johnson's leadership, just like you did with Theresa May's. I think we're all aware of your tactics by now, but it won't work. Margaret, I didn't just chip away. I used chisels, sledgehammers to attack Theresa May once I realised that I'd been conned by that Lancaster House speech. And many of you, for month after month, said to me, stop being so beastly, she's really doing her best. Well, you know what? She wasn't doing her best. She was literally betraying the Brexit vote. Margaret, I am delighted I did my best to get rid of Mrs May. Indeed, she resigned the day after the European election vote and before the results. And if I'm chiefly responsible for getting rid of Mrs May when I did, back in May last year, good for that. I do not feel that way, Margaret, about Boris at all. And any of you that listen to this show know I'm being as objective as I possibly can. I want him to succeed hugely. I do not want globalism. I do not want the rejoiners. I do not want hard left socialism to triumph in our country at all. I want him to succeed. And I would love to have seen him 48 hours ago out touring the country to visit people in these flooded areas to say, we understand, we care, we're going to look at river management. We're going to look at these issues as a government. We take your plight seriously. That, for me, would be the right level of leadership. Some of you don't agree. Craig says, yes, Nigel, Boris must use his powers to stop it raining. Well, Craig, be as sarcastic, matey, as you like. But I don't think being holed up in Chevening for the week is the right answer. David is a new caller to me from Nottingham. David, good evening.
Mr. Farage, it's a pleasure, and thank you for Brexit.
Well, thank you. And we've got to thank Boris too, because Boris has carried the ball over the line. But David, he's not acting like a leader. George Eustace isn't good enough, in my view.
I agree. He's not acting like a leader by setting Cummings on. But what's the point in him coming up? The last time he come home, he got hold of a mop, and they took the rip of the way he was mopping. Yeah? Well, yeah. He's had to mop in Eton for 8 years. He knows how to mop. What's the point in him coming up, yeah? I've just been watching it on our local news, East Midlands Today. We've got Gunthorpe, Newark, right? The rivers are up. They're still rising at the minute.
Yep.
Yeah? We don't need politicians here. Yeah? We've got all the... There's another thing. I had to ring highways up because of the storms. Roof tiles have come off a building. And one of our roads has been closed. So I've rung highways up. When's this road going to be open? We don't know. Yeah? That's the highways agency. Not just government and all that. Yeah? What's the point in him coming up? We've got everybody that knows what they're doing. We'll get it cleaned up. It's going to happen again. We're going to have to get on top of it somehow.
So should we just accept, David, that terrible things happen, floods happen, the fact that this particular set of floods is, in some parts of the country, the worst in history? Should our leadership just say, oh, I don't know, don't worry too much about it? Or should they go in, be seen to roll their sleeves up, take an interest, and perhaps think about, and I'm going to say it again, issues like river management?
Yeah, I'd sooner have the politicians out the way in a little room, you know what I mean, doing what they do with the pizzas and pies. Yeah, let them make these decisions, get the funding up to the people that live there, on the farms, near the rivers.
Do you know what, David?
Let them do it.
David, do you know what? I couldn't disagree with you more. Well, I tell you,
one more thing, Nigel, please.
No, hang on. Let me just finish this one point. You're a Brexiteer, right? You said so at the start of this phone call. It's a year ago today that Change UK launched. Change UK summed up why Brexit happened 20 years later than it should have done. Parliament was utterly disconnected from real people. And one thing we need, and one thing, David, I'm going to argue to you that we need, is for parliamentarians and leaders to get out of the Westminster bubble and go and meet real people. And I think these floods are an opportunity.
But there again, it's all right saying that, right? We can get you up anywhere, yeah? As soon as one person finds out, they're going to throw a milkshake at you up. Yeah?
Well,
you can't do it. I've seen many an MP.
But the great thing with floods is you're wearing waders, and David, I get the point. None of this is perfect. I just think that leadership means you show up when there's a crisis or there's a problem. And
we don't need leadership. We need money and planning. And
all right.
We're getting to the bottom of it.
David, thank you. And David, they're a Brexiteer who favours a bureaucratic response to this. And yeah, of course it needs money, and of course it needs planning, but it also needs leadership. Surely. A lot of you disagreeing with me here. Well, that's fine. I guess that's life, and that's democratic debate on LBC. But I still think on this issue, it's a failure of leadership. 0345 6060 973 at 6:45. Time for the news headlines with Thomas Watts.
6 danger to life flood warnings are still in place across the UK in the aftermath of Storm Dennis. A jury in New York has been sent out to consider its verdict at the trial of Harvey Weinstein. Administrators have confirmed the final 11 Bealls department stores are to close. A chilly night with showers in northern Scotland and a low of 2 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are delays on the M1 northbound with queues from junction 5 for Watford to junction 9 for Redbourne after an accident earlier on. On the M25 clockwise, there are long delays from junction 10 for the A3 round to junction 17 for Maple Cross after several problems throughout the day. It's slow on the M25 anti-clockwise because of emergency repairs after junction 23 for the A1M where one lane stays closed. Anti-clockwise on the M25, there are long delays from junction 3 for the M20 to the Dartford Tunnel after an accident earlier on. There were queues on the A13 at Newham Way going into town. That's because of an accident at the Beckton roundabout where one lane stays closed. And on the train, South Eastern services aren't moving between Greenwich and Dartford. That's because of an investigation.
Coming up at 7, Ian Dale leading Britain's conversation. Next on LBC.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, buy a car, flapjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Get cashback plus a 5% bonus in your first 3 months up to £100 with the American Express Platinum Cashback Everyday Credit Card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval.
Standard. Stagnant. Same old, same old. That's not how you describe London. We're, well, different. London loves bright new ideas, embraces vibrant, evolving communities, and isn't afraid of standing out. We deserve an energy company that's as different as we are, one that's fair and affordable for all Londoners. London Power, a different kind of energy company.
At Ring, we've reinvented the doorbell. So no matter where you are, or what time of day, you can watch over your home and the things you care about. Ring Video Doorbell streams HD video and two-way talk straight to your phone, so you can speak to whoever's at your door from anywhere.
Delivery.
Oh, great. Could you leave it with my neighbour, please?
Sure, no problem.
And it's so simple, you can install it yourself in minutes. See, hear and speak to whoever's at your door from wherever you are with Ring Video Doorbell. Available at ring.com and selected retailers.
I'm Chris Riccobono, founder of Untuck It. I started Untuck It in 2011 because, like a lot of other guys, I just couldn't find a shirt that looked great untucked. It's a tough style to get right. Untuck It shirts were designed to be worn untucked. They have that just right length and more than 50 fits for tall, short, slim, and bigger guys of every age. Today, we have over 85 stores in America and Canada, and we have just opened in the UK. Visit us at Covent Garden in Westfield, London, or go to untuckit.com. Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn untucked.
To stay ahead of the competition, you need to know when to invest in your business, which is why now is the perfect time for you to take advantage of the Renault Pro Plus new for old van scheme. Get £6,500 off the list price on the new Renault Traffic, tailored to your business when you trade in your existing van, so you get the upgrade you need to keep your business out in front. Let's invest in you. Search Renault Vans or visit your local dealer today. Order by 31st of March and register by 30th September. Business users only. Participating dealers only. For T's and C's, visit renault.co.uk/van offers.
You switch. You theme park. You log ride. And remember, she's too small for the log ride. You buy ice cream. You win a teddy. You visit the lions. You don't bang on the glass. You promise not to shout again. You buy more ice cream. More people come to us to find their broadband, energy and mobile deal than any other switching site. What you do after, well, it's up to you.
Uswitch. Broadband, energy, mobiles. More people claim based on share of web traffic. Visit uswitch.com/verify.
There's nothing like meeting face-to-face. And there's nothing like Zoom to make that happen. Zoom lets you connect and do business across town or around the world. Zoom ties together all of your communication needs into one easy platform for video conferencing, phone calls, group chat, webinars, and your conference rooms. Connect easily from anywhere, your mobile phone, your laptop, or conference room. Zoom is how business gets done. Get your free account at zoom.com today. Meet happy with Zoom.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
There are 6 severe flood warnings in place that represent a danger to life. They are mostly in the West Midlands. The River Severn is in fact most of those. And there's been no visit. Not only no visit from the Prime Minister, it's all well and good sending out George Eustace, the Environment Secretary, but no one's ever heard of him and wouldn't even recognise him. But isn't this interesting? There's been no statement from the Prime Minister. We're told he's in Chevening, Parliament's in recess, he's being kept updated. Now, he was very, very flat-footed back in November when we had the floods in Lincolnshire and Yorkshire. He turned up a bit late. People said where the hell he had been. He took some stick. Well, as Prime Minister, you're always going to take some stick. But on this, nothing from the Prime Minister whatsoever. Let us hope these severe warnings come to naught. There are 5 or 6 people already being killed by these floods. Let's hope it rests at that. Sula says to me by SMS, Maggie would have been there like a shot and taken the criticism on the chin. Yeah, do you know what? Maggie would have been there like a shot. Harold Wilson would have been there like a shot. And the Queen, and it's not comparable, but the Queen, we're told, has regretted more than anything in her, time as monarch, not visiting Messina Aberfan for fear she'd be a distraction. I'm not making a direct comparison, but leaders turn up in times of crisis, it seems to me. Elaine on Facebook says, it seemed Boris was only interested when he needed votes. Now he doesn't. Well, strong opinion on both sides of this. A lot of you, though, think that him turning up just wouldn't do any good at all. That is not my view. John is a new caller from Northwood. Good evening, John.
Hello, Nigel. My late mum once said, if I ever end up in hospital, I'll have a notice struck to my bed. I do not wish to be visited by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister in question was Maggie, actually. On this occasion, I agree with you, actually, Nigel, on this. It's noticeable that the big announcement on HS2, Boris was there on the rail tracks in high visibility orange jacket. Yes. He even did a party election broadcast dressed as a milkman. But he wasn't around. I don't think he was in the country when the London riots happened, and he was London mayor. Lack of leadership back then in 2011, and a lack of leadership now. He should be up in Hereford. He should be meeting people on the ground, and he should be making sure that they get the money and the resources they need to sort this out.
Yeah, and asking questions about the River Severn. About the River Severn and the management system, and why are these some of the worst floods ever seen on England's biggest river? John, absolutely, I'm with you. Why do you think he's not doing it?
Goodness only knows. As you say, he's holed up in the country, taking a week off. I think he's taken his eye off the ball, and people won't forget, and it may cost him votes next time round. I think people will remember. So I think he really does need to show leadership, and he ought to find out for himself exactly what is going on.
Well, he'll need to do it PDQ, John, won't he? He really, really will. John, thank you very much indeed. Mike from Bedford says, can't agree with you, Nigel. Better maybe to give a 5-minute TV broadcast reassuring people hit by these floods that his government will do everything possible to support them financially and in every other way, restoring normality to these unfortunate communities. Mike, he's not visiting. He's not doing a TV broadcast. He's not even made a statement or a tweet. It's as if he couldn't care less. Now, I'm not saying I'm sure that he does care, but he's clearly fearful of turning up and taking criticism, as he did in Yorkshire back in November. But leaders do take stick wherever they go, and I think he needs to show some sympathy, some understanding, and a desire to get to the bottom. The Somerset levels, that was very clearly an issue of bad water course management. I'm going to blame EU directives. Some will blame other things. Doesn't matter. It was bad water course management that led to those floods being the worst ever. I don't know whether the problem on the Severn is to do with river management. But I tell you what, we should blooming well have a good look at it and start now, in my opinion. And the leader should be there. Judy is calling from Colchester. Good evening, Judy.
Good evening, Nigel. Lovely to speak to you. Yes, I've been hoping that Boris would pay a visit to the flood areas. I think this will be... He'll fall at the first hurdle with this one because it will, make the public angry. It'll certainly disappoint me. He's such a jovial, bouncy sort of fellow, and I would have expected him to have got himself there. And I'm minded to remember the bad floods. I think they were in about 2013, 14 in Berkshire, in Wraysbury, and Philip Hammond was harangued by a lady who was a volunteer there, and she galvanised into action what needed to be done in her area, i.e. the army and what have you. And yes, I will be very disappointed, Nigel. I agree with you. He should get himself there.
Judy, I was leading UKIP. It had major party status. I visited both the Somerset levels and the Surrey floods, and I wouldn't have imagined. I wouldn't have thought for a moment at that point that I shouldn't have done it.
Just seems...
And yeah, I got some. Oh yeah, you're just here for the photo. I mean, I got a bit of that, of course. But Judy, he hasn't even made a statement.
It's as if it's not happening as far as the government is concerned. That's the way I feel about it. It's on all the news, it's on my LBC all the time, and it's as if it's not happening. And all these poor people now, in even higher flood alert, their houses are full of mud, and it's all just going to go away again. It went away when we had the bad floods all those years ago, and now, it's just going back into the same old circle. I can't remember who it was, but somebody, I don't know if it was a royal or somebody from government, went to visit that time, and he was harangued because he had brand new green Wellington boots on.
I remember all that, and I turned up in a pair of grotty old waders, but I think I was the best dressed because they were real. Yeah, that's right. David Cameron was criticised for his choice of Wellington boots. You're absolutely right, Judy, thank you. William on YouTube says, Boris can surely delegate. He's a leader, not a nanny. William, he has delegated. He has sent the great new Environment Secretary, George Eustace, out to meet the great British public. William, could you pick George Eustace out of a lineup? I bet you could not. I'm going to take one more caller on this subject. It's Patricia, a new caller to the show from Walsall in the West Midlands. Good evening, Patricia.
Good evening, Nigel, and it's good to speak to you.
Welcome.
Right.
So,
now, I'm probably at odds with you here.
That's all right. That's life.
I'm on the side of the emergency services and the road management. Boris wouldn't be going in a little car like the gentleman that has gone. He would be going with all his security. The roads now, this isn't one area. The roads, and they're actually saying don't travel, and the roads we've all got the same weather. West Midlands, where I am, has got it really, really bad. I haven't. We haven't even seen it in this road. But what I say is I believe he would cause danger on the roads. He would be a havoc for the police and the services that are trying to get to help people. He would be in the way. If he doesn't go after the event to all the areas or some of the areas or whatever, I would be disappointed. And I would like to think that as our Prime Minister and leader, who I am loyal to any leader from any party, providing they do nothing against the country, that happens to get into power, I'm backing him on this. I would like to think that there is a number of experts. I know some people don't like experts, but engineering people...
We're all a bit cynical about experts.
But engineering people and everybody that can do something about this are at this moment, I would like to think they're actually sitting around a table. What can we do?
But a Prime Minister can kick them. A Prime Minister can put the fear of God into them. A Prime Minister can make things happen. Patricia, thank you for your call. Boris going afterwards is no good at all. It'll look dreadful and they really will shout at him. He can even get in a helicopter and survey the scene and say how shocked he is at the sheer vast thousands of acres covered in water. He could put a statement out. He could do something. At the moment, he's doing nothing, and I think that is a failure of leadership, and not one of you has persuaded me the other way. I'm back tomorrow at 6. At 10 tonight, it's Tom Swarbrick. Now, it's Ian Dale.
Nigel, you must listen at 9 o'clock, because we're going